Hey everybody, it's Peter, and in this video we're going to review two of the most underrated Kawasaki Ninjas that exist here in 2024, and it'll probably be the same in 2025, but there could be some tweaks. So, I'm filming here at Jim Gilbert's Wheels and Deals, Jim Gilbert's Power Sports. This is the #1 volume Kawasaki dealer in the country, and they give me complete access to their entire vehicle lineup. So even if you're not interested in these specific models, I think this video may be helpful for you because it can point out a couple things on these bikes that make them unique, make them great values, and make them underrated. So what we're going to do is talk about the new Ninja 500, the SE model, and we're going to talk about the Ninja 1000 SX, both of which I think cover a broader proportion of people than maybe people think, and I think both of them are a little bit overlooked. So we're going to go through them in detail. We're going to start with the 1000, and then we're going to really show why this 500 stands out, because the 1000 has a ton of features, but even this Ninja has a couple things that the 1000 doesn't have, because it's just been redesigned for 2024. So that's what we're doing. Let's get going with this review. So when I talk about an underrated bike, what I'm really talking about is a bike that suits a larger swath of people than usually look at that bike. And the Ninja 1000 is a perfect example of that because this thing makes more horsepower and considerably more torque than something like the Ninja 636, which is sort of the known sport bike. It also has a number of features that are on the ZX10, and it still is more comfortable, more practical, more useful, and unless you are a super sport rider, the ZX10 is probably more sport than you'll ever be able to use, and this thing's going to be both more comfortable and probably easier to drive fast. And remember, when you get into leader class bikes, the difference in speed is only at full throttle, right? If you give this thing full throttle and you give a ZX10 part throttle, you know, you're going to be kind of going the same speed, and we're talking fractions of seconds, 0 to 60 and well beyond that. So this bike becomes something that is both more comfortable, just as sporty, and in some cases easier to ride sporty than some of the super sports, but it does give you a number of things that kind of expand that use case. So for instance, being more comfortable, you're going to drive it more places. This one also has available bags you can add on. You don't have to add them when you buy the bike, but you can always add them in the future. And it allows you to sort of grow with the bike and make it anything you want. Using it to zip around town, no problem. The engine's super smooth and can be docile. Using it to head out to the racetrack, it's got sport modes and rider modes and stuff like that, that you can make it exactly what you want. So it really is versatile, and it's the kind of bike that you're probably going to ride a lot more than the typical super sport Ninja from Kawasaki. So let's take a look at a couple of the details on this bike. So if you've seen my videos before, you know I love to start at the front tire because that tells you the manufacturer's intent of this bike. And if you look at this one, this looks all super sport. The only thing you might want to do is maybe go to braided lines here on the brakes, but that's just a minor type thing. You've got the advanced traction control system, so it's a better traction control system than on just about any other Kawasaki Ninja below it. You also got the ABS, of course, but you have the ABS with the IMU. Basically, the bike can sense if it's leaning, if it's twisting one way or the other. In other words, if your rear end's swinging out, front end's plowing, it can sense wheelies, it can sense all of that stuff. And again, virtually nothing below this has that. So you step into something with a huge electronics package that's going to make it both easier to ride and it's going to make it faster when you need to go faster. So you've got all of that included here, including the basics. You've got super sport style front brakes, including the radial mount, so you've got the strong, stiff mount. The upside down forks are exactly like super sport. They are fully adjustable. You've got a lot of adjustments. The upside down fork by nature gives you more stiffness up top. And even little things like the, I don't know if you can see in the shot here, that's just out of the shot, but the signal is actually part of the bodywork, so it's not sticking out on stocks. And the big thing is the Bridgestone Battle Axe tires. This is the top tire on the non-super sport Ninjas. Now Kawasaki on their website basically calls sort of like a road sport and a super sport type category, or sport and super sport, but these tires would be just suited on a super sport bike. They're the Bridgestone Battle Axe S22s, and the rumor is that this bike was designed, these tires were designed for this bike, and of course they're on all kinds of other bikes. So you have a tire that Kawasaki doesn't equip anything lower in the sport lineup with, but can absolutely grip as well as basically all the super sport bikes, especially given your riding characteristic, but it's also going to give you good tread wear, and it's just a really great tire. A lot of bikes upgrade to this tire. This bike comes standard with it. Hidden inside the bodywork here, you have the 1000cc, which is actually a 1043cc. It's actually more displacement than an H2. It's more displacement than the Ninja ZX10. but what it does is it gives you a really smooth power plant that's never overworked but has a lot of horsepower, and the biggest difference is it has a lot of torque. That torque versatility makes it just such a more enjoyable street riding bike because you can ride it anywhere. Pair that with a quick shifter, both up and down. A lot of ZX6s don't have the up-down, so you have up-down quick shifter, and you've got something that is incredibly smooth, relatively efficient for what it is, but also something that has tremendous power, not just high in the revs, but everywhere in the revs, which makes it more fun to ride. So a sport bike needs a good, aggressive riding position, but a everyday, usable, versatile bike needs a comfortable riding position, and this is where this bike does really well. First of all, you've got more cush here than you would have on a typical super sport bike, so right away, just where you have your touch points, it's going to be more comfortable. But as you see the seating position here, you still have that little bit higher seating position that you would have on a super sport bike, but you can see I'm about 6 feet tall, a proportional 6-footer, and I'm flat-footing this bike easily. The handlebars as well, the clip-ons I should say, they rise up from the stem here rather than going down. So instead of being in this position on a Super Sport, you're risen up. And what that does is allows you to have a very comfortable riding position. You've still got higher foot pegs, so there's that sport position that keeps your foot pegs off the ground. You can lean this thing right over like a Super Sport, but you have the option of sitting more comfortably upright. Now you have room to move on the seat to tuck your rear end back and get really low down here and get in that super sport position for when you're out on the track. The other thing I like here is you have a little button press here. You can get a little more aggressive angle or a little more touring angle to change that buffeting and to change where the wind hits you to give you more wind protection. So if you're out on a tour and you're sitting upright, you can let it up like that. If you want to head down to the track and you want to get it low, or it's just a hot day and you want more airflow coming through, or maybe this is in a position with, given the wind, the way the wind's crossing your bike, you're getting some buffeting, you can just adjust it quickly to any one of a number of positions in between higher and lower to give you the wind protection you need. So versatility is the key here, but you're not sacrificing any real sport capability unless you're really on the racetrack and an extremely skilled rider. If you're an average to above average rider, this thing is going to be all the super sport bike you need, and it really comes from a super sport engine in the past, so you've still got all of that, along with an incredibly smooth engine, electronic throttle, and like I said, the electronics package that can control everything here is absolutely phenomenal, which makes it both smoother riding, drive modes, that kind of thing that can make it great for around town, and super sport feeling. Taking a look at the seats here, one benefit to this bike is most super sport bikes or general sport bikes in general have a terrible rear seat. This has got a very wide rear seat, especially for a sport bike, and it's quite a comfortable bike. If you look at Kawasaki's ads, they'll often show two people on this very comfortable seat and fairly wide. You also have good hand grips down here, which you can easily grip. You've got some space there, as well as, of course, you can hold on the rider. And because this is designed not just as a sport bike, you have a remote adjuster. Of course, the rear shock is adjustable as well, but the remote adjuster here, if I can get it in the center of the shot, there we go. What that does is it's your preload adjuster, so if you're adding extra weight like a passenger, you can just quickly adjust the preload and sort of level out the bike, keep the balance where you want it. So again, super simple to use, but also very versatile, able to take a passenger, able to tweak the suspension, whether you're going sport riding or comfort riding, whatever you want. So as we take a look at the dash area of this Ninja 1000, you get all the things you expect from a modern Kawasaki, including the nice TFT display that's super clear, easy to read, and really versatile. It gives you a lot of things. Now, I've gone over that dash in detail in other Ninja 1000 videos, so just search my channel, Peter Lowe 1, Ninja 1000 SX, and you will find several videos on this, including where I go into the dash more. But I just want to touch on a couple other things. First of all, both brake and clutch lever are fully adjustable, so you can adjust them not just for reach, but also to have the brake and the clutch grab point to be exactly where you want. If you bring this in more, it's going to change where that grab point is for you, or that, you know, that clutch engagement point is for you. So you can really customize that to exactly the way you want to be. Slipper and assist clutch, of course. The electronic throttle also matters, but I want to take a look at some of the quick controls here. Actually, before we get to the controls, let's just zoom in the center of the screen right there. This is not something that is standard. I mean, that piece that you see is standard, but you can add Kawasaki accessories, USB port or a 12-volt port, and that, of course, allows you to mount a GPS in this, which makes it a really practical bike for touring. Speaking of touring, you're going to want a few controls on the handlebar. Let's take a look at what you've got right here. I'll zoom into that again right now. And what you have here is your headlights have been moved up here, so that's the flash to pass, but most modern Kawasaki's don't have this push button to turn them on. So you just sort of flash to pass, push them to turn on, that's your high beam, of course. And then you have in the headlight space, you have the mode and select button. So again, this controls most of your dash, and you have a little reset button down here. And then inside that, you have cruise control. Cruise control is super nice to have on a bike that tours, bike that can do everything. Below the signal light or the signal switch that you see here is a horn down there and a four-way flasher. Four-way flashers or hazard lights are really good if you're on a touring bike as well. So you've got all the controls you want, very simple to use, including that digital dash. But let's talk value as well, because when I talk about an underrated bike, value is a key piece of it, and this bike has a ton of value. Let's talk about that right now. So value in the motorcycling world can be a tricky thing because certain people value certain things more than others. On something like a cruiser, you may have less technology than something like this bike, but you know, it may be worth more to you because of the style, because of what it is, because of that big V-twin. So what I like to do is compare the bike I bought to this, which is nowhere near the value, and it's right in Kawasaki's lineup. So I love the bike I'm gonna trash right now, but it is the Kawasaki Z900 RS SE. Basically, my bike has a little bit better suspension, or a little bit better brakes. It's Brembo brakes, and I have an Olin suspension. Technically, that's a step above. Will it make any difference to you outside of the track? Probably not. This one still has full adjustable suspension front and rear, but check out what this has. This bike costs less than my bike, significantly less than my bike, and let's just talk about some basics. Obviously, the windshield, overall wind protection, general styling, comfort, those are all really good. Cruise control, the advanced traction control. This is all better than the bike I have. Cruise control, the advanced traction control, the IMU, which sets up a computer system that can sense every which angle this bike is on for better traction control, better ABS braking, better everything control, wheelie control, all that kind of stuff. It also, again, the windshield, the 12-volt port on the front, mine is based under the seat, so it's not as convenient. All kinds of things, and I could go on and on and on. Quick shifter, bigger engine, more power, all of that stuff is on this bike, and this bike costs less than the bike I bought, which is another Kawasaki. The value in this bike is incredible, and the versatility is also incredible. But this is only the second most overlooked bike, or you know, sort of undervalued bike in Kawasaki's lineup. Let's pull in the other bike I had at the start of the video and show you why that one is the most overlooked Kawasaki Ninja out there. So this may be surprising to some, but the most overlooked and sort of undervalued by a lot of people bike in the Kawasaki Ninja lineup is the new Ninja 500, the SE model. I think for a lot of people, they look at the Ninja 500, they say it's not really a 500, it's a 451, and that's totally fine. And that's all that they did. But Kawasaki really reevaluated this bike, especially in the SE trim, and it now suits a different market than just the 400 did. The 400 sought, you know, to be a wide market bike for a lot of people, and it was, but this expands it even more, and that's what I think a lot of people are missing about this. So the first thing is the seat is a little more comfortable. We'll show you riding position on that, but you gain electronic controls that even that Ninja 1000 at twice the price of this doesn't have, and it's got a cleaner sort of setup to things. The SE model gives you the larger touring windshield, although it's not adjustable like the Ninja 1000. It's probably one of the best windshields on sport bikes in the entry-level, low-displacement class. And I'm hesitant to say entry-level anymore because the amount of power in this bike is actually sort of mid-pack, and for a lot of us who grew up riding, you know, other bikes, this was good power, very good power, and you get it in a lower insurance rating and everything else. So let's take a look at some of the things that make this bike unique as well as we go through bit by bit, and sort of why you maybe shouldn't overlook it. So take a look at the front wheel here. You're gonna, again, see the manufacturer's intent. This isn't as high end of a bike, but it does compete extremely well within the class, not just because it has a little bit more engine. So you do have right side up forks versus upside down forks. Now, at this level, I think that's really just marketing if you were to put it upside down, because you're not experiencing the level of forces. This bike's not gonna go quick triple digits, jam on Brembo brakes and slow it down that much. So I don't think you're losing anything at the G-forces, and given the weight of this bike, one of the key things to this class is many of them are lightweight, and that lightweight makes it more fun. So the front tire in this is about 1 centimeter narrower than every other sport bike in the Kawasaki lineup, and that's allowing this thing to be a little bit more flickable. So you have a little bit more immediate reaction on this, which makes it a little bit more fun to drive. If you ever looked at Lotus's ethos, it's, you know, add lightness. In other words, keep that thing light. This is a lightweight bike that is fun and easy to drive. Single disc with ABS, you don't need a secondary disc on this. If you ever wanted to upgrade something like the suspension, because this bike is so similar to the 400, they've already got upgrades for suspension on this that you could do whatever you wanted with it. So you could really add to this bike as you go. But as it is in this SE trim, I really like what Kawasaki's done with it. Let's take a look at the engine now. So of course, engine buried behind bodywork here, but I think that's worth mentioning that it is buried behind bodywork. First of all, I can get in here and you can sort of see that engine there. It is allowing some ventilation out of there. But a lot of bikes in this class don't give you the full bodywork. You get great styling on this bike, and let's talk about that engine. Again, it was a 399cc, it's now 451cc. Basically, the cylinders can travel a little bit, or the pistons can travel a little bit further now, and that is the added displacement. So you're having a lot of the same components that gave the 400 all of that reliability, and you've just basically stroked it out, giving a little bit longer ability for the two pistons in there to travel a little bit further, and that adds power. Now you might think that doesn't add a lot of power, but if you think about it, the amount of displacement change in this is an entire Vespa scooter and then some of displacement. So that's quite a bit of displacement to add to a small lightweight bike when you think about it. And then what you have is the 400 was already basically class leading in power. Well, now you've increased power and torque throughout the rev range, so it has a little bit more power everywhere, which makes it more enjoyable to ride. The SE model has a nice little thing here. It has a couple of nice accessories. We'll point out a few of them to you. This piece here is just, if you drop the bike, it's gonna protect that bodywork. Really nice thing to have. That's all standard. You don't have to add it as an accessory. So seating position is important on a lower displacement bike because a lot of the bikes in this class are very small, and for a 6-footer like myself, they feel small, but that's not the case with this 500. So as I jump across here, again, the seat is relatively high, so you still have a nice reach to the ground, puts you in a sportier position, but it's still low enough that I can easily flat foot. So easily flat footing, handlebars again come up, but it's nice and narrow here, so you have that nice tucked in aerodynamic position. And again, when I put my foot where I need to put it to reach the brake, it feels like in the showroom this exhaust is in my way for my size 11 feet, but it's not in the way when I'm sitting and actually riding. So if you sit in the showroom and you put your feet way back, yes, your foot may rest on the heat shield there. But again, if I sit where I'm gonna sit where I ride, it's not in the way. So compact, yes, but roomy, also yes. So I can put my seat way back, get in that tucked position right behind this larger screen. But if I sit upright, same idea with that Ninja. I'm pointing to it just off screen. The Ninja 1000 that had the adjustable screen, this gives some of that same effect here with this larger screen. You also have a digital dash here. You also have some nice controls here. You've got a keyless entry, which we're just going to quickly show you in a second, that makes it good. But one of the things I want to show you when I'm in the seating position here is the seat they changed the shape of the seat from the 400 to the 500. And I didn't think the 400 was that uncomfortable, but it did sometimes push you into the tank, where this one's just a better seating position, seems to be more suited to more people, and it's definitely something I could ride for a long, long time. As far as a forward lean on this, it's not uncomfortably forward. You got a little bit of wind that's going to hold you up. Whether it's like this or like this or like that, it's basically the same for most people as far as comfort. But having this larger screen is going to allow you to just ride a little bit longer and not have all of that pressure on your chest. It does have ventilation through the bottom of the screen, which again, some bikes don't have that, and that creates that negative pressure in there, so it kind of buffets and does things. This lets a little bit of air through there, which allows this area to be filled with air while you're riding and doesn't create as much buffeting as you would have on some competitive bikes in this class. So taking a look at the seat on this, just like we did with the 1000, you're going to see a little difference here. First of all, this is not a rear passenger seat. On this SE model, this piece comes standard with the bike, but so does an extra seat. Now, you may not take a lot of passengers long distances on a 500cc bike, and just given the size of it, but you absolutely can take a passenger around town, not a problem. Even on country roads, not a problem. But what you do find is, what I like anyways, is this gives you that sleek look when you want a sport bike, but you can swap it out with that regular seat that has the same material as this, and that allows you to put a tail bag on there without scratching the paint and everything else. So you really have some flexibility in taking a few things along with you, because both of those come standard, and that is not something that happens within the Ninja lineup. So again, the value here, you're getting some things that you don't normally get. A couple other things worth pointing out, very hard to see on camera here, so we're just going to zoom in here. You do have these extra stickers that are going to protect the side of the tank as well as the top of the tank there. So that is all, again, standard on this SE model. Just a little bit of features here and there that make a difference. All right, so let's take a look here at the screen, and you'll notice that this is not a key, and that's because this is my key. It's a keyless entry piece. When I need something to pop the seat off or use other things, there's a key built in there. It's like a jackknife style key right there. But this is a keyless entry thing. I'm gonna keep it in my pocket right now as I reach around to the starting point, and you should be able to see if I keep my hands in the right angle here. As soon as it goes orange, I can bring it over and start it up. So I'm trying to show on camera, is a little slower there, but as soon as that little light turns orange, it's good to go. Basically, you keep your key in your pocket, you hit the start button, and you are good to go. And you can see basically the same dash as you have on the Ninja 1000. This one has Bluetooth connectivity with Kawasaki's Rideology app, which gives you a lot of functionality. And remember, anytime you can connect to an app, the app can update over time. So you may have features added to your bike or features added to the system between the app and your phone that allow you to have more in the future. Right now, it can tell you if you have messages and other things, phone messages, phone calls, that kind of thing. It can tell you right there on the dash, which is a pretty good thing to have in this class of bike. Over here, no adjustments on the brake levers like we had on the Ninja 1000, but that's okay. You still have a slipper and assist clutch. You do have a flash to pass trigger right there, but it doesn't turn on your high beam like this does. So because you don't have the extra controls, high beam there, signals, horn, but you still also have the four-way flashers or hazard lights, which is again, not something you typically see in this class. Let's just zoom all the way out. You can see where we are. We're gonna come down a little bit. And I'm gonna try to show you one little piece that will be in the center of your screen in a second. So just under the handlebar ahead on the fairing here, if we zoom in there, you see a little piece right here. This is a USB-C port. So again, if you're gonna do a little touring on this, you've got that extra large touring windscreen. So just so we're clear, the regular Ninja has a smaller windshield. The Ninja SE, 500 anyways, has a larger windshield. And if you're gonna pair your phone or something else up, you have a USB-C port standard on this bike. So remember on the Ninja 1000, we had to add that 12 volt or USB port. This is all standard on this bike. Great value, not something you used to see in the Ninja 400. So we started this video off by talking about these two being the most underrated Kawasaki Ninjas, but let's decide if they're right for you. First of all, I think this bike is overlooked a little bit because it's viewed as like we used to call an entry-level bike. Well, there's still things like the Yamaha R3, which is still fun for advanced riders, but that is less displacement, less power, and there's lots of those 300-ish bikes around. As you move into this 451, which they're marketing as a 500, basically to compete with the Honda, you end up with something that really is more special. Great technology, and let's just talk about that Honda comparison for a second. This bike is lighter, it makes more power, even though it has less displacement. I think it's far more fun. I think the extra bodywork looks better. I think the extra screen that comes standard with this one is great. And again, USB-C port standard. All the stuff you're gonna pay extra for on some other bikes, all of this bike has standard. And the keyless entry, I gotta admit, it's pretty cool. It works really well. It's not complicated. A lot of motorcycles went to various types of keyless entry and it just didn't work very well. This one's flawless. It's worked for me every single time excellently, exactly as it's supposed to. So you get something that feels like a more expensive bike and a bigger bike. And when we talk about entry-level bikes and this bike, this is a bike that I myself, who regularly drive a almost leader class bike, I would happily drive this every day. It is just as fun, but not quite as fast. And that's one thing people confuse. If speed is the only way you're having fun on a motorcycle, then you're missing out. Fun is what you should look for in a motorcycle, and this one's just as fun as mine. So let's talk about this one here. Why is this 1000 underrated? Well, that's easy. A lot of people think of the super sport bikes. They want that Ninja ZX6, they want the ZX10. Well, this gives you a lot of that power, and in the case of the 600 class series, you get more horsepower and a lot more torque and more comfort and more technology. So that becomes a bike that for the price is a killer value and is still one of my all-time favorite motorcycles. Sport touring motorcycles have moved to the more adventure style. By keeping with this, you have a few advantages of the lower center of gravity of yourself and the bike, which makes it handle really, really well, but it is just as comfortable as those more upright seating position sport touring bikes, and you end up with something that can give you all the sport of a super sport, but way more versatility in long distance touring, just driving around town and everything else. More comfort, more everything else. So these are the two most underrated Kawasaki Ninjas in my opinion. What do you guys think? Are these bikes worth it for you? What do you love about them? Let me know in the comments. And again, if there's something you want to see that I didn't cover, I'm filming here at Jim Gilbert's Power Sports, the #1 volume Kawasaki dealer in the country. They give me access to everything here, so if you have a question, we can come back to these bikes again and again. Thanks everybody for watching. We'll catch you in the next one.